Pike's Peak International Hill Climb has led to some of the most badass cars the world has ever seen. And for good reason, it's one of the most grueling events on the motorsport calendar. Thanks to the rise in video game popularity since the infamous Suzuki Escudo and cultist Pike's Peak in Gran Turismo 2, those of us around the world who had never heard of the hill climb started to use it as a slang term for cars that were just modified beyond all belief. Little did we know it was just time attack, but you would gloss over that. It was pre-internet. You've heard of the Escudo, the cultist, you've watched Vatanen go up the hill in a 405, Michel Mouton in a Quattro, even the Toyota Celica in Tacoma had a run. But did you also know that Volkswagen had a go at the infamous Race to the Clouds? And it was with a Mk2 Golf? Well, as part of the 50 years of golf celebrations, let's have a deep dive into the Pike's Peak Mk2 Golf. First up, it's important to get a little bit of background. Pike's Peak has already been covered by the likes of Donut Media and many more, so if you want to learn more about the actual hill climb itself, I'd recommend you just head over there. But to give you some context with this video, let's have a little bit of history. Hill climb racing is, as the name implies, climbing a hill. Rather than multiple cars on the track at once though, it's a single car time trial, point to point or a sprint if you prefer. And the fastest time from start to finish wins. It's one of the oldest forms of motorsports there is, with Pike's Peak International Hill Climb in Colorado possibly being the most famous, taking place annually since 1916. At 12.5 miles long with 156 turns, the track climbs a staggering 4,720 feet from start to finish. That's over 3 times the height of the Empire State Building. In the old days, the road was half tarmac, half gravel. The old days including when the golf we're actually going to talk about raced, which led to a massive challenge as cars needed to maximise grip on both tarmac and dirt. Nowadays they've fully tarmacked the whole thing, so it's a little, I'm not going to say it's easier, but you know, it's a bit more simple. But the half dirt, half tarmac was only half the challenge. The biggest challenge was relating to the height of the course itself. You see, the higher up in the air you go, the more the atmosphere differs, which wreaks havoc on things like aerodynamics. And the less air pressure there is, the more your car struggles to breathe, and therefore loses power. And the way to combat all of this is with some of the most fucking insane body kits you have ever seen, not to mention drivetrains. Naturally, you know, with such an iconic event, there's a lot of kudos to be had, and Volkswagen, being no strangers to a publicity stunt, decided they wanted in on the action. As such, they would go on to create possibly the single most bonkers Mk2 Golf that's ever existed. Volkswagen entered the event on 3 separate occasions: 1985, 1986 and 1987, with 1987 being the final evolution of the Mk2 Pike's Peak. Just saying Mk2 Pike's Peak is just so fucking weird. To start the insanity, Volkswagen decided that one engine wasn't enough. Oh no. They started by experimenting in a Jetta with a twin engine setup. Yes, 2. Before eventually turning the prototype into a Scirocco. Well, they didn't turn the Jetta into a Scirocco, if you know what I mean. And eventually they decided on the Golf, which, considering it was just kind of getting its footing in the US market, and again it made sense from a marketing perspective. So they shoehorned 2 1.8 GTI engines in, which according to the internet were 16 valve engines which had a little bit of breathing on by Oettinger, not really sure. But to me that's a bit strange that they did that, because the Mk2 GTI 16 valve didn't actually come out till 1986. So maybe this was also a test bed for the Mk2 GTI 16 valve, I'm not really sure. The crazy thing about this whole setup though, other than the fact there's 2 engines, because you know other people did 2 engines first and after, but the thing about these engines is that they weren't actually synchronized. They ran independently. So usually something with 2 engines would have like a joint setup, and you would like start one and it would start both all together, but no. On the start line the driver had to start one engine and then the second engine, which apparently led to some interesting handling as there was a delay between the revs and the 2 engines. You could select front, rear or 4-wheel drive as well, which is just what the fuck. There was one thing that joined the 2 though: gearboxes. Each engine had its own 5-speed box, but they ran from the same gear lever and the same clutch pedal. I don't even want to think about how complicated that must have been, as the naturally aspirated engines were sadly starting to run out of puff due to the lack of air the higher up they got. For 1986, Volkswagen came back with a different approach. Oh yeah, I should mention, yeah, they did terribly. The next time though, they came back with two 1.3 engines with turbos. Now people are saying that these are out of the Polo, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the 1.3 that was in the Polo was also in the lower spec models of Golf, which would have been over here, but maybe I'm wrong because nobody else is saying that, but I'm pretty sure that was the same lump. So we'll stick with Polo for accuracy. Most amazingly though was the fact that they somehow managed to squeeze 200 horsepower from each of the Polo engines. Yeah, a 400 horsepower twin engine turbocharged Golf. What? Not satisfied though in 1986 with still not having a victory, in 1987 Volkswagen doubled down and thought, no, fuck this, we're either winning or we're going out in style. They did neither, but we'll get to that. They came back to Pikes Peak in 1987 with two 1.8 GTI engines that were both turbocharged, leading to an insane 652 horsepower and weighing barely over a ton, with a 0 to 62 time of 3.4 seconds. In a Golf, 1987. Holy shit. For context, at the time, a standard Mk2 Golf had about 110 horsepower and only weighed about 980 kilograms. 6 times almost the power. Unfortunately though, despite fucking every little bit of power they could get at this thing, Volkswagen still never managed to bring home a win. Which, other than some issues like a ball joint going near the finish, was likely for a good reason. What up YouTube, it's your boy here, and he can't believe he just said that. I'm gonna go again. Yes, it's that part of the video where I say you should go and check out our web store, which I'm going to put the link to here, and hopefully put a picture of some t-shirts here. I'm going to do a Mike Brewer and point completely the wrong place. Anyway, yes, we have a web store where we sell unique Volkswagen and Mercedes t-shirts inspired by each video that we do. This one is inspired by not only the video being about Pikes Peak, but also the greatest game of all time, Gran Turismo 2, where the Pikes Peak hill climb was included. Sadly the Mk2 Golf wasn't included, but fuck us I guess. Anyway, yeah, so if you like cool obscure Volkswagen t-shirts, go and check it out. We're not sponsored or anything like that, so this is kind of how we get money in to buy shit boxes to do more videos. Thank you also so much for the people who bought them already. I actually can't fucking believe it. We've had people send us in pictures and everybody says the quality is class, and I'm so fucking delighted that people like them. So if you'd like to add to your collection of obscure shit, if you want to start a conversation at a car show when they say what the fuck is that on your t-shirt and you're like, it's Mk2 Golf Pikes Peak, you don't even know what that is. God. Although don't do that, you'd probably be a bit of a dick. Just tell them to go and check out this video instead, that'd be a bit cooler. Anyway, back to the show. To explain why, we need to take a look at some of the other cars that were good at Pikes Peak. The Escudo, the Cultus, the Celica. Now, take a look at the Mk2 Golf Pikes Peak. Do you notice anything kinda missing? The Golf looks very plain, sedate even, like a Golf. The back had, you know, fans for the cooling system and all the rest, but realistically this just looked like any other Golf. It wouldn't even make you look twice. That's because there are two ways of promotion when you're racing. You make something look just like the production car, or you make it look like the ultimate evolution of said production car. When it came to Audi, for example, at Pikes Peak, they went for the insanity approach, turning the base Quattro into a fire-breathing monster, although, to be fair, the Pikes Peak Quattro wasn't actually that different from the Group B Quattro, so I guess it's not that far. But still. For the Golf though, Volkswagen decided that they kinda needed to more closely resemble the production car that could be seen on the streets, and that was their approach to try and drive sales. But unfortunately, making it look like a standard Golf kinda played to the Golf's detriment. Lack of aerodynamics meant that the car struggled a bit as they got higher up the mountain, which likely was amplified by the already tricky to drive twin engine setup. For the first 2 years of Pikes Peak, the Golf wasn't substantially changed. Well, obviously it fucking was to fit 2 engines, but you know, shut up. It was still a standard body shell, save for a few flares and a vent on the hood to get the air into the back. Standard for, well, any mid-engine racing car. I mean, go and look at the F40 or the NSX JGTCs, but anyway. When they came back in 1987 with the balls to the wall version of the Mk2 Golf Pikes Peak, they pushed the boat out with an all-new, fully aluminium monocoque design, looking still like a Golf, but much, much lighter. In fact, much like the 205 T16 of the time, about the only thing this Golf shared with the production model was the headlights. Not even the glass, because it was plexiglass to be lighter. To leave nothing to chance, they completely revamped the suspension setup as well. taking inspiration from cars with Formula in their name rather than Rally. We can't help but think that if Volkswagen really pushed the bolt out and gave the Golf Pikes Peak some spoilers and aerodynamics to go with all the show, it would have been a completely different animal altogether. And maybe it would be joining the childhood poster cars on our bedrooms. The Mark II chapter may have ended in 1987, but Volkswagen hadn't given up on the race to the clouds. It just took them a while. In an attempt to promote the new ID range that we know and tolerate today, Volkswagen created their first electric racing car, the ID.R. Not only was it fast, it was stupid fast. It broke the all-time record previously set by rally legend Sebastian Loeb. Although I say all-time, it's a bit weird to say that since, you know, at the start it was half tarmac, half dirt, now it's just all tarmac, but you know. And was the first car ever to break the 8-minute barrier on the course. That wasn't enough for Volkswagen though, they were out for blood. Volkswagen went on to beat the Nürburgring electric car record and set a new record at Goodwood Hill Climb. When they do it right. For now, the Mark II Pikes Peak still exists. In fact, 2 of them do. One lives in a private collection in Germany, and the other, the 87 final one, the one that was as close to getting to the finish, it remains with Volkswagen's Heritage Collection. And it underwent a light recommissioning by Volkswagen themselves in 2018 to make an appearance at some ice race in Austria. Sadly, likely thanks to not having a victory to its name, the Pikes Peak Golf lives a life of relative obscurity, and is very seldom talked about to this day, especially compared to other Pikes Peak trial cars. Maybe it's because it never won, or maybe it's because it wasn't flamboyant enough, a departure from the road car to really capture the imagination. We'll never know. But you know how it is. These days, all it takes is one video game to completely skyrocket a car to internet stardom, so come on Turn 10 or Polyphony, do us a solid here. Anyway, that has been our deep dive. Sorry, shallow dive, I guess. It's not really that fucking deep. That has been our overlook of the Pikes Peak Mark II Golf. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's been great doing these Volkswagen history videos. Thank you all so much for your comments, whether they are nice or whether they're telling us we're wrong. We're used to it by now. I've been told I was wrong my entire life, so what do you do, I guess? Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Go and check out the web store if you'd like to support us, get some cool t-shirts and shit like that. Subscribe to the channel. I've been Tomo. This has been 427 Motorsports, and good luck.